Hit record. Okay. Hi, everybody. I will be monitoring the waiting room and chat and such, so you don't have to worry about that, Bob. But good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for our workshop on how to obtain a alcohol, lottery, tobacco, or marijuana license with SLA Solutions. This workshop is a part of our Learn series, which is sponsored by Tompkins Community Bank. I'm Mary Holland Bavis, and I'm the event and program manager here at the Chamber. And we're super excited to have Bob Heil here from SLA Solutions, who is an expert on this topic and just informed me that there is some very timely information that he can share with us today about this process. So I'll pass it on over to you, Bob.
All right, good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you folks today. As Mary has alluded, we just found out that the Liquor Authority is making some massive changes in how they're approaching applications. So it's affecting everybody who currently has a license and anybody who may be thinking about getting a license. The first step of that is going to be in what's called the renewal process or the temporary extension process, in which we were able to use a system that's been around for years. And, like on the renewals, it was a 5-page form, and a lot of people got used to doing it on their own, and everything was tied to your serial number. So what we were told last week is that they shut their system down on Thursday night. It's supposed to be live again this morning with a whole new process for all of us to try and figure out and learn, and that hasn't happened yet. But what we do know is it's going to be tied to an application number. So everything that you've done, if you have a license currently, that you've known how to do going forward, is in a totally new structure and new program. So we expect that there's going to be some confusion and chaos. As we typically do, we will be vetting the information and disseminating it out to our clients and the public as to how to proceed correctly and properly. This is going to be somewhat like what we had to do during COVID, where there was a lot of information that was out there that people were sharing with each other and stumbling over the rules, where we'll take the time to vet the information, talk to the right people, and get it back out to you, knowing that what we're sharing with you is absolutely correct and working. So we may not always be the first one to make an announcement, but what we do share with people, we're very comfortable and confident that we're sharing accurate information. So as of right now, we know that renewals will not be what they were yesterday. We just aren't exactly sure what they're going to be tomorrow. So we're sort of in that little bit of a limbo, but we're here for anybody that wants to call and talk to us. And my staff will be in a position that they can handle renewals properly going forward. In anticipation of this, we've already made arrangements to meet with we have a new position in the Liquor Authority. It's a regional director. So we have a new director for Zone 3, which will be Buffalo's office, which does cover Tompkins County. And we already have a meeting set with them for next Tuesday. So we're giving them a week to sort of work through what they have to work through. And then we're going to personally meet with them, share our experiences and concerns, and get solid answers, and be able to get back to you again and share what we've learned from that. So the next phase, we're being told, is the actual liquor license applications are going to move to a new type of format. We're not sure what that's going to be, but I think that the renewal process that they're talking about right now is going to be an introduction to that program. My feeling is that it's going to be somewhat similar to what we have to do on the federal or TTB level when we do those type of permits. And we were just at a national convention in Pittsburgh last week, where we met with several different state regulators to get a feel for what they were doing, knowing that New York was trying to model themselves after them. So we've done as much as we can to prepare for this and be able to come back to you and your members and answer questions for them, and if necessary, help them through the process. So that's what I've got this morning. Just a little background on us. We've been around for about 20 years. We do all types of state and federal applications, whether it be for alcohol, liquor, beer, wine, from the retail side to the wholesale side to the manufacturing side. We also handle cannabis, tobacco, and lotto. So we're here to assist people with any of those types of applications. So.
Right. So do you think you could just share with us sort of the, I guess, overarching process of, if there's a local business who is thinking about starting a business and wants to apply for, let's say, a liquor license, what do they need to know and how do they get started?
Okay, I can do that. But before I do, I just want to introduce Nicole. She's sitting behind me working this morning.
Hi.
Nicole's is the vice president of operations at this point. She basically runs the company. She's also my daughter. With what's going on this morning, she's going to be monitoring some of that rather than being part of this. Okay, just not ignoring you. She just has to stay on top of what's happening right now. But great question. So people come to us at all different levels of involvement in trying to get a liquor license. But what we've always tried to tell people is before you do anything, you want to check with your local municipality and make sure that you have proper zoning, because that has happened to us. In fact, it just happened last month where, a client came to us, had a whole plan put together with what they wanted to do. The place had been previously licensed, so there was no anticipation of problem, only to find out that the town had rezoned that particular property and they were unable to get their liquor license without going through the variance. So when you have questions or concerns or you're thinking about it, you do want to do two things. One, you want to make sure that the local municipality is going to be in agreement with the type of zoning for the business that you want to operate there. And secondly, it's a good idea to run that address past us. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Depending on the type of license, you may be subject to either the 200-foot rule or the 500-foot rule if it's an on-premise application. And we can check that address for you. Or if the place had been previously licensed, there could be what's called a prescription on the property. And that's where the liquor authority has stepped in at some point and actually put a hold on that piece of real estate for a period of a couple of years because there was an issue. And if you don't know that going in, you can spend an awful lot of time and money thinking that you're moving forward with the project only to find out that it can't happen. So that's one of the first steps that we like to do. Secondly, we like to know that you've already set up some form of structure, whether it be an LLC or an INC. We highly recommend that. So you want to talk to your attorney about that. If you're going to own the property, we highly recommend that you separate the two so that you have one entity that would own the real estate, if that's the case, and the other entity that you would apply under, so that it spreads the liability. If something were ever to go wrong, they won't be taking your property away from you. If you're in a lease situation, there's some terms in the lease that need to be put in there that 99% of people don't know that it needs to be there for the liquor authority. So again, a phone call to us helps guide you through those certain requirements of any lease that might have to be there. Even if you own the property and then you have an entity that's going to be licensed, you're still going to need a lease. We call it an I love you lease because you're going to lease it to yourself, but it needs to be done. So all of these things can be proactively put in place before we start the process, and it just sort of helps people come to the table with proper and accurate information and sort of streamlines and keeps it moving a little bit faster. We like to have conversation, and we call it a video or a virtual meet and greet. So when we talk to a client or want to take them on as a client, we like to know where you're at and what type of application you're thinking about, and answer those types of questions before we ever have you retain us. Because there's at least 2-3 times a month, we'll have somebody approach us on a concept that just isn't going to work in New York State. It may work in another state, but not in New York. So we help them redirect before they've spent an awful lot of time and again, money trying to get something going. And unfortunately, we've seen people literally buy real estate with the plan, especially now with cannabis. Okay, we bought a building and we're going to put, we're going to be serving, alcohol. And then our business plan is also in the back room to have a smoking lounge, and you can't do that. So they either have to reshift and re-gear their business plan or sell their property. So.
That's really interesting because, I'm sure there's so many people who, especially during COVID, were like stir crazy and thinking about just like different business plans and maybe just jumped ahead a little too far before doing their research. So if someone's looking to, so you say they should have a established LLC before coming to you, but is that kind of like when they should come and talk to you? Just to make sure, like basically when you have this meet and greet and they're sharing their ideas with you, is that something that you kind of offer to everybody before you take them on as a client, and then kind of just gather information on if you can help support them? Is that how that works?
It is. I mean, technically, we can and we do set up LLCs for people or corporations. We have that capability. But I never step into a relationship if you have an attorney, if you have a corporate attorney that you're working with. Excuse me. We're there to come up alongside and assist and guide. But if you don't, if you're totally fresh and you're just not sure where to begin, then we have the capability and the staffing to take you through every phase of that. Right along with the same with accountants. If you don't have an accountant, you should. And we'll talk, in more detail with each client as to what we think might be necessary there and to help guide them. My background, I was in the restaurant business for years before stepping into this side of the arena, and I've owned several other businesses. In fact, still do. So I can come to the table with some general business concepts and share those with our clients and just have discussion, whether it be on the legal side, the accounting side, the marketing side, staffing, whatever. So I just like to know that the clients that we take on are prepared to enter into what they're looking to do. We will talk about financing. First of all, the state or the federal government wants to know about your financing, but it's not uncommon for someone, let's say for a liquor store, where they come in and they have a great idea and they have a great little spot and there's no other stores around, and they want to open, and they've got, in their mind, what they think is adequate funding, $20,000-$30,000, where the state's going to look at that and say you're underfunded, to properly stock a store these days and to have enough working capital. We're probably looking at least 50,000. So we'll have those discussions ahead of time. Nothing more frustrating than to put it all together, package it, send it to the liquor authority, only to have them come back and say you're short on your finances. Now you're scrambling to try and find an investor. So there's different ways that we can show you how to present money. And I'll phrase it this way: we have to show available funds versus actual funds, and there's a difference between the two. So you may or may not, you may actually literally be able to start your liquor store with $20,000 or $25,000, but the liquor authority will want to know that you have available funds behind you if you couldn't, and we'll show you how to structure things like that. So the stuff we've learned over the years.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Actually, it's funny because I have a friend who actually is exploring opening a liquor store because he owns a bar right now and he's just over it. And I don't think he knows any of that. So I will absolutely send him your information after this. Yeah.
Liquor stores are the only license in New York right now where the liquor authority decides whether they think your business plan is going to work or whether you're infringing on existing businesses. So, we can open up a grocery store in every corner in every town and not have a problem. They all sell beer and wine products. But if you want to sell wine or liquor, then it has to be a package store. And meaning the liquor authority, decides whether they think the market can support it or not. So when you make that application, which takes about a year to get in front of the board, they're going to look at the 4 closest stores. They're going to look at their sales over the last 3 years, and they will make the determination as to whether they think your business plan is going to work or not. So
wow, that's really interesting. In terms of that year-long wait, is that typically the wait that anyone would anticipate having for a liquor license, or would that just be for a liquor store specifically?
Liquor stores have their own time frame to get it on the board calendar to make a decision.
Gotcha.
Right now is taking close to a year.
Mm-hmm.
But since you mentioned it, right now in New York, it takes about 9 to 10 months to get a permanent license. So they have come out with a program called a temporary. We hear it all the time. It's a temporary permit. It's not a temporary license. And that really is an opportunity for most applications New liquor stores are not included in this conversation, but to apply for a temporary. And that permit is then good for initially 3 months. And then they renew you on a monthly basis until they catch up with their workload. So typical on-premises can apply for that. Some manufacturers can apply for it, others can't. Again, that's why we have that virtual meet and greet so that people understand the timelines. Commercial properties typically are rented and landlords expect payment. It's not real common for someone to say, oh, great, you want to open a liquor store and you can have this premise because you have to show the liquor authority that you have exclusive rights to this property for a term of no less than 3 years. And then just take it off the market while we wait for the liquor authority to put you on their calendar. So you're going to end up paying some form of rent, and then we're going to guide you as to some things that may be put in the contract to get you out of that if for some reason either you're disapproved or the landlord decides he doesn't want to wait any longer. So it gets a little tricky,
Yeah, so many things to navigate.
Yeah.
What was my other question that I was thinking of with that? Oh yeah, so you had said that when you do take on a client, and you had mentioned a retainer, does that mean that a business that has acquired any type of license has to renew or continually need support from you after they receive the license?
Every license has a term to it. It could be a seasonal 1-year license. It could be like a liquor store or grocery store, a 3-year license, or a manufacturing license. It can go up to 3 years. And they all have a renewal process. And that's actually what's happening. That's what's changing right now within New York State, is how that renewal process happens. The fees charged by the state are a little bit less than the initial fee. Our fees are drastically less on a renewal compared to an initial. There's a lot of work and effort put into getting the license procured for you. To maintain it after the fact is really just a matter of rearranging some information, checking some data. Let's make sure there hasn't been an arrest in between. Landlord hasn't changed, things like that we have to report for you. We check your corporate status. This is a real common problem we come across, where people are not checking their the statuses of their LLC or the corporation to making sure that they're still in good standing with New York State. There's a biennial filing that has to be done, and many people let that fall through. And we watch people get denied then because they didn't keep up with that simple little accounting thing. They just assumed somebody else was doing it. So again, these little things we're watching for you. But yes, we're always there. When you pay us our fee, we stay on retainer with you throughout the course of the term of that license. So you can call us during that time frame and you have a question. My friend said I could do this, or I heard I can't do that, or so-and-so down the street is doing this. And if you try and call into the liquor authority, it's very difficult. And quite honestly, sometimes the information is not always accurate. So it's easier to run it past us, and we'll check it. If we don't have it, we'll get it, we'll vet it, and we'll share it with you. You're not paying us for any of that. So there's not an extra bill every time. Sometimes you see that, like with law firms. Every time, I know I have one attorney I call, and every time I talk to him, it's like, this is
you get a bill for $100.
It's like, we're not talking for 16 minutes because it goes up another hour.
Yeah. Yep.
So we build all that in.
Oh, that's great.
And then renewal time, we're out there proactively letting you know that your renewal is coming, because the state does send out a notification. But quite honestly, when you see what the form looks like, a lot of people just throw it out as junk because it doesn't look official at all. It's a little trifold, and it's like, it gets tossed. So we track our clients, and we're always in front of them proactively trying to make sure that everything's done in a timely manner.
That's great. Yeah, I have a couple friends who've gone through this process, and it doesn't it does seem like it can be a little frustrating working with the liquor authority. So it's great that there's resources like this available for folks who need that. I do want to ask, so I know we've got a couple people here. I don't know if they have any questions, if you wanted to throw them in the chat or come off mute, whatever you want to do. Yes, no, maybe so. No? Okay, cool. That might be all the questions that I have that I think folks would want to hear. Are there any things that I didn't cover that is a pretty typical question you get in a meet and greet or anything like that that you think would be helpful to share?
Somebody just jumped down there.
Oh yeah, Jillian. Yeah. Jillian, do you have a question?
Good morning. I do actually. I have a couple of questions for Bill about like current cannabis industry. Particularly, I guess I would like to know how many cannabis licenses are you seeing? Are we really flooding the market? Is it something that you've really been able to get into, or is that just something that's so new that you haven't had an opportunity?
So the window just opened again last week, and we have 60 days to turn in applications. We had done the card. Previously, there was a window that was open for people that had prior arrests, cannabis type arrests. And we had a couple clients go through that were actually approved. But then all the lawsuits came after the fact. So anyways, the window just opened again. We've got a couple dozen applications that we're putting through right now. We have a lot more interest from people. But when we show them the list of the information that they have to have and things that they need to get us before that window closes, some people are overwhelmed. And the way we typically operate is we like to submit correct, proper, and vetted information before we turn it in, rather than just, sort of put together a helter-skelter type of application. And, I call it the spaghetti theory. We'll just throw it at them and see if it sticks. Doesn't work. You're going to be denied. Our experience thus far in the past week, we've already had the Cannabis Control Board, the Cannabis Office of Management come back to us with things that we've submitted, asking for clarification. So our experience is showing that they're going to be very particular on what they're looking at and how they're looking at it. There's a little bit of confusion in the language. So it's like they were asking us for corporate charters. And in New York State, we don't have corporate charters. We have articles of organization. We have corporate minutes. We have things like that. So we had to push back a little bit and say, so that we do this properly, what exactly are you talking about, a corporate charter? And then they scratched their head and said, oh, well, it's the same thing. But on their application, they were asking for both a corporate charter and then for articles of organization. So is it one, the other, both?
So it's a little disorganized chaos on both ends. We have that problem in New York State, don't we?
It can, it'll smooth itself out and we'll understand it. I call it an oxymoron, but 20 years of doing this, we call it New York logic, so that we'll look at a question and we'll understand what they're asking before the average person will look at it and go, well, they must mean this. And we're going, no, our experience says this is where they're going with that. So, there'll be a little bit of hand holding and dancing here between our agencies until we get to that point that we know exactly what they want. Into them as well. They're trying to get what they want as far as information and may not be viewing it, or let's say they borrowed that information from another state where it sounded really good, except like this case, New York doesn't work. So let's find our way through it.
Okay. Now you said that it was 9 to 10 months for permanent licensing through the liquor department, whatever that is. Is that going to be about the same timeline for cannabis, or are you seeing things move faster over there? What's the difference?
We're being told it's going to move much faster. But everything has been provisional or conditional up to this point. So
do we know, what does the renewal look like on those ones that have been conditional?
Good questions.
Great question. And when I find out, I'll let you know. The
I just
renewal,
realized I was heard.
you will find us to be very transparent. What I don't know, I don't know. And I'm not ashamed to say I don't know. We'll find out. But
there's a lot we don't know right now, and it seems, it's kind of like a waiting game right now. I guess maybe we're getting in a little early, but all right.
No, it is. We have a staff that we keep on board that keep those relationships going with people in the industry. So and what I'm liking about this particular industry, and it reminds me, let's say, of the breweries in New York, where they don't really well, they do compete with each other, but they share information with each other really, really well. So when I deal in, on the brewery side of things, we belong to the Brewers Association. Everybody gets together to share with each other to help each other. And I'm seeing that within cannabis right now, that whatever I can find out, I will share with other people that are doing the same thing I'm doing. And likewise, that we're trying to disseminate good information to each other so none of us are tripping over or making major mistakes. So I sort of like that.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, this is Josh. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so while we're on cannabis, I am interested in opening a dispensary. Is there, and I did see the information on the New York site, although I was just told yesterday that somebody said that you need 4,000 or almost 4,000 square feet for a dispensary. Is that a rumor, an untrue rumor?
Well, that's a technical question, and I'm going to defer to the person who heads up our division. That's Wendy. Wendy right now is on a different call with doing something else. But Josh, I can get that information and get it back to you if you want.
But that's something I could call you and say, okay, I've got a building. It's this, it's that. The other thing, should we move forward on this?
Again, if you want to check the address on it again, because they also have 200 and 500 foot rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, by all means, we do that type of checking, and there's no charge for that. We just, we look it up for you. We tell you what it is, and then if it's something you want to proceed with, is great. But we do that for liquor stores as well. It's, just call us with the address before you spend any time or effort to make sure that it clears, and then we'll have conversation.
Thanks.
You bet.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll circle back to kind of what I said earlier, Bob. If there's any sort of information that we didn't cover today, that's a usual typical, topic that you cover during your meet and greets, that we weren't able to cover today. Is there anything, or that we haven't covered yet? Is there anything you want to share?
I think, you hit on just about all the points. The only other thing that we bring up during our meet and greet, and there's sometimes confusion with this, is that they're going to do a background check. And that's going to be either liquor or cannabis. And probably one of the things that's gotten some people in trouble is that they've had an arrest in their past, and they were told it's a youthful offender or it's a sealed record. Don't worry about it. Okay. In my past, there was a previous life where, let's say, maybe, possibly, I got in trouble, and I was told by my attorney, don't worry about it. It's gone away. It's a sealed record. It's all done. That's not true. When they do a background check, they're going to do a full blown FBI check. And if you sneeze the wrong way, they know about it. So we have to disclose it. If it's a misdemeanor, it's just a matter of getting a certificate of disposition from the municipality. It doesn't matter what state it was in. If it's a felony, it's a different process, and you're only allowed one. So if you have multiple felonies, you're going to disqualify for making an application. If you have one, we have to get a relief of disabilities here in New York. And if it's out of state, there's another whole process that we have to get you to go through New York and get something called a certificate of good standing. So it takes time. So on a felony, can it be done? Yes, but it takes a little bit longer. If it's a misdemeanor, moves along a whole lot faster. And definitely, if that arrest took place, even if you're doubtful of it, better that you disclose it and then let us deal with it than for them to view you and say you lied. And we've had that happen where they've outright denied an application because somebody said, no, I wasn't, based upon what they were told by their attorney. And then we go through getting affidavits and depositions and things like that to try and get a reconsideration handled for you. And that gets pricey because now we're hiring attorneys to do it. So that's just the one area that we always like to talk about, is just be transparent with us and let us know. The other thing that we come across from time to time is the term silent investor. There is no such thing as a silent investor. You either are or you aren't. If you have money into a program, then that needs to be disclosed. And that's where we run into trouble. Well, my brother-in-law, he has the money, but he has a felony, so he's not going to be on the license. So we're going to put it in my cousin's name, and we just won't tell anybody about it. And you're wading into an area that can really cause you some headaches or concerns down the road. And invariably, the information pops out sooner or later, many times. And we've watched that happen. We've had people be less than forthright with us or honest with us. And then we watch their license get taken away because those two parties get into a fight as to who really owns the business. And the next thing you know, it becomes public knowledge. Or somehow the information gets leaked out to the liquor authority, or at this point now, the cannabis board. So better to just tell us what's really going on, and we can help guide you as to what the structure might be.
Right. And I think that's super important, obviously, to just have folks who are exploring doing this understand that, you've seen probably everything. So you're not judging or, it's a judgment-free zone, but you need to be honest. Yeah.
It's it can be very costly if you're not. And a lot of times we just hear people go, oh, don't worry about it. No one's going to look. Nobody knows. That's not been our experience. So not saying some people haven't kept it under the radar, but it's not the way we proceed.
Right.
Okay.
So
Gladys,
Bob,
I saw that you
yes.
go for it.
Gladys,
Hello. So last week I did a training. I work with an entrepreneurial assistance center, and we are going to be processing applications, and I believe they are the social justice applications. And so I guess my question with regard to the felony convictions and the rest of it, is it different for that group? Because chances are these are people who, if they're going under social equity, then they're people who have some sort of conviction, or a previous marijuana offense, whatever that happens to be. So what is the rule for them?
Okay, so let's separate the two. Liquor does not have such a view. There is no social equity with liquor.
Right.
Okay. On the cannabis side, they have in the past, under the card program, allowed people, in fact, it was required that you had something in your past to be part of that first round.
Mhm.
So the cannabis board is looking at that very differently. I think it's what might help define the difference is what was the arrest for.
Mhm.
So if it was cannabis related, then I'll use the term welcome. Come on in. This is where the social equity comes in.
Gotcha.
The view is that the rules back then or the laws were unfair, and this is how they're making up for that. If you were arrested for grand theft auto, that's not so much social equity,
Right.
So that's a different way of looking at it altogether. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions for Bob? If not, I have everybody's emails who is here. So I will send out a link to this recording if you want to rewatch it. And then I'll also share all of Bob's info for anyone who wants to reach out to, dig a little deeper with anything that they're working on and have any questions about. Does that work, Bob?
Sure does.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, with that, then I think that we've covered all the things. And I know that you've got a lot of work to do right now in terms of exploring all of the new legislation and requirements, right? So
Gonna keep me busy today. So
oh yeah, for sure. Okay, great. So thank you so much, Bob, and everyone over at SLA Solutions for your time and really just being such an advocate for local businesses. I think that this is such an incredible resource that I'm so happy that we can share out to all of our chamber members. So With that, I will let everyone go enjoy the rest of their Tuesday, and feel free to email me if you have any questions.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.